I like to read and I try to keep up with the news, but it seems like it's a lot more challenging than it used to be just a few years ago. You know, you go through your news feed and there's all this interesting stuff that you want to get to, but you can only read one thing at a time. And then you're on the subway, the perfect time to catch up on some reading, but you don't have an internet connection. You can't download anything. So our next group built an app that allows users like me to take control of our reading and our reading habits. This is readMe.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Gore. These are my teammates Don Leisman and Anu Prasad, and we're here to talk about readMe. So some of you may be familiar with apps like Instapaper or Pocket, which allow you to save an article that you encounter online to read later in a clean and distraction-free interface. And we enjoy these apps, but as developers and data lovers, we realize that having most of our reading material in this central location provides some opportunities to give us some insights into our reading habits and answer some questions like, how much do we read? When do we read? What publications do we prefer? Do we tend to read an article in one sitting, or do we break down that task into smaller intervals? So with that in mind, we created readMe, which takes the core functionality of existing Read It Later apps and adds a layer of data-driven statistics and visualizations about your reading habits. So how does it work? Well, when you encounter an article online that you want to read later, you can use the readMe Chrome extension for a one-click save, and then later on your desktop or mobile device, you can read that article in a minimal yet customizable interface. Our responsive mobile site resembles or mimics a native app in that you can add it to your home screen and read articles online or offline. So with that said, I'm going to hand it off to Don to talk about our tech stack.
Thanks, Jeff. So when a user saves an article with readme's Chrome extension, the article URL is sent to our server running Node and Express.js. Then the article is sent to an external API called Mercury, which does the work of scraping the article text and returns it to be saved in our Postgres database. On the client side, we used React and Redux, along with libraries such as React Responsive and Semantic UI, to create a mobile responsive reading environment that works well across different screen sizes. It was important for us to allow users to read offline, so we decided to build readMe as a progressive web app in order to let users read offline on desktop and mobile devices without the need to develop separate native applications. As a progressive web app, readMe uses the new Service Worker API in the browser. So when a user makes a request to the server, for the first time, readMe registers a service worker in the browser, which takes all of the user's articles and saves them in the browser cache. Later, if a user does not have an active internet connection, the service worker can take those articles from the cache and serve them up directly from there without needing to contact the server and without any apparent difference to the user. If the user does not have an active internet connection, features that require one, such as saving a new article or deleting an old one, are disabled with a helpful message to the user. And now Anu will talk a bit about how we let users track their reading habits.
Thanks, Don. For the data analytics portion of our app, we track the interactions between users and their articles. When a user begins reading an article, a timer starts and starts keeping track of how long the article is open. When they leave, the timer stops and that interval is recorded. We often find ourselves wanting to read in places offline like the subway, so we thought it was important to also track offline interactions. To manage this, when a user is connected to the internet, interactions are added to the database on our server. Otherwise, if they're offline, interactions are added to the browser's local storage. Then, when online again, readMe checks the local storage to see if there are any interactions, and then adds them to the database. These interactions are the source of the visualizations and statistics that give users insights into their reading habits, so they can see things like how much they've read over time, the hour of day they read the most, and the distribution of their reading sources. They can also get a closer glimpse at their interactions with individual articles by both time and frequency of reading. We encourage you to try out readMe, as well as download our Chrome extension in the web store, and also feel free to check out our code on GitHub. It was a pleasure to work with each other, and we learned a lot in the process. Thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoy readMe.
All right, to vote for readMe, like the post, like their pinned comment. I'm a big fan of Read It Later apps. I love Instapaper, I like Pocket, and I've always wondered why they haven't given me more analytics on what I'm doing and helping me understand like what sources. I mean, they recommend stuff, but to have the recommendation of sources that you're reading from and how much time you spend reading, and of course, like I said, immediately leading to here's how you might read more. Here's the times that you're not taking advantage of. It's really cool.
And they didn't forget about the offline portion, right? Like a lot of apps out there like let you save information offline, be able to come back to it later. I like their integration with service workers, but I really like the fact that they kept in mind that like we still want this data, even though we're offline. We still want this data. Let's save it here and optimistically, get it back when we can,
Yep.
which is really, really, really cool.
Yeah, we've seen a few apps today that have been progressive web apps, which I think is a really exciting trend in mobile development and web development. I'm really excited to see how people use that over the next few years.